Okay, let us see now program inspections. So inspection, what is inspection basically? Inspection basically is nothing but checking that particular system. Okay, so you'll be going to execute, or basically the requirements will be going to be inspected, design is going to be inspected, configuration data is going to be inspected, test data are going to be inspected. It's nothing but you'll be going to give whether based on the requirement specification, whether these things are going to be executing properly or not. Okay, phases are going to be executing properly or not. Those things are going to be inspected. Okay, once the inspection starts with the requirement specification, it is always better. Once you should start from the requirements, you should flow with the design requirements, the configuration data, and test data are going to be checked, and coding is going to be checked, programming languages are going to be checked, programming errors are going to be checked. Okay, those things are going to be inspected regularly, so that finally you will be not going to get any errors in the program. So for that, inspections are needed. The checklists are going to be there for the inspections, what and all that you should be checked. Okay, so if the programming checking is going to be weaker, means testing is going to be weak, then more checklists are going to be present for that. Okay. Usually any programming languages that they are going to use, that it should follow the proper formatting of the language. Okay. That is, constants, how you will be going to name it, how you will be going to initialize the constants, looping terminations, array bonds, something but very simple thing that it is going to be loop termination. Okay. If you are not going to write, okay, for example in C language, if you write in the main bracket, then semicolon you will write. Okay, just simple way that I am saying, purposefully you have done or unexpectedly that has been done, you will be going to do like that. Then when you run that program, it never going to terminate. Always it will be in the same loop. Okay. You are like in the for loops. Okay, for in the bracket, two semicolons, then close the bracket, close the again more semicolon. It never going to terminate. So like that, the conditions also it is going to be for I is equal to 0, I is less than 10, I plus plus. I said I is less than 10. Actually in your mind it is going to be 10 times it should loop. Okay, so instead of writing I is less than 10, I is less than or equal to 10, you will be going to write it. Then what happens, instead of looping from 0 to 10, okay, 0 to 9, it loops for 10th also, means 11 times it is going to loop. So problem is going to rise. So you will not going to get the proper output. So like this, n number of things are going to be there. So checklist is going to be made according to that. So here are some checklists for inspections. Fault, data faults. It means to say that how we will be going to name the constants, variables, that it should be checked. Okay, the size of the variable, bounding of the arrays. Okay. If you say a of 10, how many characters that it is going to be there? It should be 11, it is 0 to 9. Okay, when you say 10th will be the end of the program, it is end of the size of the array. Okay, so the last will be always it is going to be ending state. Those things are going to be whether it is mentioned properly or not, that it should be checked. Data faults are going to be there in this. Then control faults, looping statements, as I said, the same thing, whether it is terminates properly or not, then brackets have been given properly or not. Okay, closing brackets, starting brackets. Then whenever that you are going to use some case statements, you have been asked to write properly the structured way of writing that case statement, whether it is executing properly or not, whether you have written the closing and statements or not. Okay, default statements or not, that should be checked. Okay, then input and output faults. So in your mind, okay, usually you wanted to access the integer variable, but you have written inside that a floating variable. Whether it is correct or not, that it should be checked. Variables have been defined or not, that also should be checked. Unexpected inputs causes the corruption of the program, so that also you should have to check it. You are asking for the integer variable, but you will be going to input for the character, then whether the program should accept this or not. If it accepts, what happens? So those things are going to be inspected. Interface faults, when you will go to couple two functionalities, two parameters, then it is going to be checked. Okay, so you are going to call some programs, functions. So the function is accepting two parameters, but you are passing the three parameters. That time whether it is going to be acceptable or not. In the reverse way also, two parameters you are giving, three parameters that is accepting function, then whether it is acceptable or not, those things are going to get inspected. Then storage management, it is the how the data is getting stored, whether it is in the linked structure or not. Okay, if it is which format that it is accepting the data, and whether it is dynamic or static, that also it should be checked. Okay, then inspection management faults. Here yes, everything is being given, provided, but how do you check that the possible errors and conditions taken into account? Okay? When at what time that you should check these things, exceptions will be there. So those exceptions, whether you are checking that or not, that also should be verified. So these are some checklists for the inspections which is being given here.